What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another ranked Joust tier list. And today we have 11.10. About a month ago we had 11.9, and as per usual, we have 11.10 for the ranked Joust tier list. So if you guys are new, I do a ranked Joust tier list every single new patch. And that's specifically after updates that they make to certain gods and items that make certain gods better or worse with the buffs and nerfs. And then on top of that, I like to go over the tier list from the previous patch. So 11.9, this right here is the tier list for 11.9. And we're going to go ahead and go through top to bottom. We're going to switch around some of these gods, or not, maybe, depending on the god. And yeah, at the end we're going to compare 11.10 to 11.9, and then that'll be your tier list. And yeah, so I do play ranked Joust a lot, so I like to say that I know for the most part what is and isn't good. So I think that's basically everything. I think I can I guess I can leave a URL to this in the description. I don't think it's really going to do anything, but I guess I could. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it without further ado. So if you'd like to skip to the end, I will compare these two. But starting off with our first god here, that being Jing Chen. So a lot of these gods that I'm looking up here, some of them are actually going to change, funnily enough. But with Jing Chen, so Jing Chen is so fucking good, does so much damage, and still benefits off a Curse Weaver. Jing Chen is kind of like the middle between a really high damage god like Cthulhu, but also has a lot of CC, and is also very safe. I will say, I'm not going to do this, but if I were to do this, I guess I'm going to do it with the SS bands, and so we're going to put this in order from SS, in the SS band section, where the top right here is your best god in the game, and the further you go down the list is still an SS band, but not as good as the beginning of this. So Jing Chen is still going to be, in my opinion, in SS. He's probably one of your later bands, though. He hasn't really gotten a buff or a nerf. Curse Weaver did get a nerf, but specifically in his kit and how he plays in Joust, it didn't do anything to him. And so specifically for me, I like to ban him towards the end. But he's still SS ban. Cthulhu is still in a very good spot. I know he got nerfed, and I think maybe he's a little bit overrated because everyone bans him right away. But he's still pretty manageable if you play into with the right team. But with that being said, the nerfs that he did, I don't feel like they were that significant. So I'd say he's still your top ban. I'd probably ban him maybe second or third, but he's still up there. Fafnir still OP. Nothing's changed with him. He's still fucking busted. He's gonna be top ban for me. I think Serket, though, still, even with the nerfs, even though technically she got a buff as well, specific to Joust, I think she's still the best god in Joust, and so she's gonna be number 1 for me. Fafnir's gonna be number 2. Cerberus, I think, probably goes. I probably ban Cthulhu before Cerb, so he's probably gonna go around here. Still very fucking good. Curse Weaver, really good against Aphrodite, which I've been seeing a lot more of, and he definitely counters them. Specific with him, you almost have to go anti-heal. So whenever you see him build Curse Weaver, it feels like you almost have to go anti-heal. That, along with if you see anyone else go Curse Weaver and you're playing Cerberus, it feels good because you get to steal some of his shit, steal some of their healing. Still one of your top bans, though. Kumbhakarna. So Kumbha's gotten like 3 nerfs in a row. I still think he is a very good top of the food chain guardian. However, I will say with all the nerfs, just kind of bringing him down to S area. I don't think he's a ban anymore. I think there are more pressing bans than Kumbha. But, you know, he's still a very good top of the food chain guardian. I can't remember exactly. He got nerfed to his ult, his 3 slow and shit like that. That being movement slow and attack speed slow. I can't remember. I think some other cooldown shit, but he's gotten some pretty significant nerfs consecutively in the past few patches. Still think he's very good, way better than he was before. But he's gonna be down in S, in my opinion. Don't think he's a top man anymore. Charybdis, I feel weird putting up here because I can't really compare it to the Guardians, seeing as these Guardians are so fucking busted that I ban these more than anything else. So I'm gonna bring Charybdis down to S. I still think Charybdis, I think Charybdis is still the best hunter in Joust. Super safe, does so much fucking damage with Kins and her auto. Really good with Odysseus's bow. You know, got CC immune ult, so obviously very safe. Got 3 CC immune, and you still have your beads and Aegis. So she's one of the safest and best hunters in the game. And I will say that when you come down to banning hunters or backline, you know, mages and stuff, the first god you should be thinking about is banning Charybdis, unless you're going to play her. So she's going to be an S, but she's the best hunter still. But not like a top ban in my opinion when we're talking about like these bans up here. Odin, I was a little overzealous. I'm going to put an S, probably bottom S, almost A+. He just hasn't been feeling great. I'm sorry. No, he still feels really good, obviously, because I'm still putting him in S, but he hasn't been feeling as good as I thought he would with the recent buffs. And he doesn't get played a lot. That doesn't necessarily mean that anything, actually, but he's, you know, there are other gods that just are so fucking good. And I played Odin a decent amount into these high end gods out here, and he feels fine. He's good, but he's not like I don't think he's a ban, definitely not. And then already talked about Jing, but yeah, these are still your top bans. Kumba's down 1. Charybdis I still think is in the same exact spot, but it's a little weird to put her in the same spot as these gods, but it's definitely a ban that you always want to think about when you're banning backline. Okay, Ares. I think Ares, in my opinion, is SS ban, but again, I got to take into account the playability of him. He's super hard to play, not just like mentally, but like you have to hit his chains, otherwise he kind of sucks. So with that being said, I think he's probably one of the best gods in the game, but because of its playability, like I said, I think it puts him down 1 just because of how hard he is. So I'll say that Ares is in the exact same spot, but considering everything, I ban him a lot. Not like in the first 3 bans in Joust, but generally speaking towards the end. Or if I specifically have a team that is very hypermobile, like Serket, Jing Chen, Kumba Karna, for example, I'm counter banning Ares, because if they go Ares, it's just so fucking annoying. So he's in a similar spot. He's in a weird spot in my opinion, because I think he's SS banned. But because no one really plays him a lot, it almost makes it to where he goes down a tier. So yeah, Kuzenbo I've been banning more of. I still think, I'll put it as this. I think he's a ban because I've been banning him a lot. Personally, I don't find him all that crazy. I still think he's probably S, but considering what you guys should probably be banning and what I've also been banning, these are my line. This is my lineup here. These 6 gods I'm almost always banning. Generally speaking, I'll go straight into Fafnir ban, Cthulhu ban, and then Serket if they don't ban these, or if they don't ban them as well. Otherwise, I'll just like pick from what's still open. These are your top 6 bans that I'm always banning still, and I don't know what they're going to do for 11.11, but it doesn't seem to really much change in the past few patches. But yeah, I'll put Kuzenbo towards like the end. I would much rather ban Serket, Fafnir, Cthulhu, and Cerberus before I ban Kuzenbo, but I'll probably ban him before Jing Chen. Uller, he's just kind of been falling off. He hasn't really been playing much. I think Uller is A+. No one really plays him, and I've been going up against a decent amount of Ullers, and maybe it's just the person behind or the piloting Uller, but he just hasn't been feeling crazy. But you know, A+ still very solid, super hard to play though, and at a high level is one of the best gods in the game, but still similar to Ares, I'm gonna put him in down a tier because of that. Hou Yi, still going to stay in the same spot. Outside of Charybdis, I think Hou Yi is one of your other gods that are still top of the food chain. Hunters that you can almost always go. They just keep buffing him, especially as 1. He does so much damage, super safe. I mean, Hou Yi has always been good in Joust for the past like 2 or 3 seasons. Atlas is going to stay here as well. Nothing really much. Actually, no, Atlas got a buff, and I think he... I don't think he's necessarily ban worthy, but like he's like top of like bans to think about when you've already banned through these, and then they still might pick a tank, for example. You know, if they first pick a backline character like a hunter or mage, and they, you know, still need to get like a guardian or some shit. Ares is still a very good ban to think about. So he's still S, and he got a buff in his ult, making it to where it shreds prots and is it damage? It shreds prots. It reduces prots, and I believe it reduces damage, making that inner circle with the extra stacks a lot easier. We already talked about Medusa still staying in the same spot. It's a common theme that the top of your food chain gods are going to probably stay there within that same spot, especially with high res not changing a considerable amount of things, just, you know, tweaks here and there. So with that being said, Medusa is still very good. I currently been seeing and playing her more ability base. I mean, she's kind of been playing that for a while now, but ability base, and like you stack on like add on like a Kins, for example, if you're going up against double tanks, or you can just go full damage. It's still very good. Regardless, Medusa is still feeling super nice with that extra damage, or with all that fucking damage that they quote unquote nerfed a while ago. But they did nerf it, and she was like super fucking busted. Now she's just like a really good top hunter. Rajan, I'm gonna put an A plus. I haven't really been seeing him much, and when I have been seeing him in the few games, he just hasn't been feeling like crazy, and that's probably because I'm playing hunters, and I guess that's why I'm putting him down, because hunters are just better right now. They're just so much better in my opinion. Not that, you know, not to say that, you know, mages suck by any means, but like hunters are still very much outperforming mages considerably. I mean, they kind of always were. If you think about like the top rank, you know, the higher you go, it's always the double tank backline hunter, whether it's, you know, double guardian or, you know, guardian warrior hunter. It's been like that for the entirety of the year for the most part. Achilles, it almost feels weird to put him in S, but it almost at the same time almost feels weird to put him in A plus, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't care about Achilles. And I think she's still very good, but we have A plus here for a reason. I think Achilles is A plus. He's still a very good god, and he has a decent counter against Cthulhu. Not a full-on counter, but, you know, a pretty decent counter when Cthulhu ults, you know, within that threshold. Achilles can ult him for free. It's just a giant hitbox. With that being said, every time I've gone up against an Achilles, I think I've won. I think I may have lost. Well, I don't think I've actually, you know what? This entire split, I don't think I've lost against an Achilles. I've only gone up against like 3 or 4, and I think I've beaten all of them. And he does damage, don't get me wrong, but he does not feel fucking unkillable like he once was. And I always thought he was a little overrated, but specifically now with these guys just being so much better, I don't see Achilles being an S tier pick anymore. I think he's a solid A plus, which is a little weird. And in my opinion, I think Baron is better. If you go specifically tank Baron, full damage Baron, I think would probably go down a little bit more. But if you're playing like a hybrid full tank Baron, he does so much damage, has so much support ability. Slows are so fucking broken in Joust. Knockups and slows are probably your best type of CC. And Baron has a lot of that with his 3, with his ult drag. He has a lot of healing sustain. He does a lot of damage too. He's a little immobile. But if you play correctly, position correctly, he's almost invincible. And every time I've gone up against a Baron, this split, it's so fucking annoying. His 3 destroys my mindset. Like the fucking very slow into a creep root, or yeah, is it root? I believe, or is it stun? I think it's a root. It's just so annoying. So I think Baron's still gonna be an S. Shiva, I think, is still an S. I think he's a better god than Achilles. His 2-1 combo is going to be very obviously consistent. Procs Runeforge really well, and he's a very similar god to Jing Chen. I think I've said like a million times before. Super safe, always a go-to. My go-to as well, whenever I can't think of anything that goes well into the enemy team comp, or, you know, within a team comp. Super good. Marty is going to be an underrated but super good high damage safe hunter. He's always been that safe hunter, similar to AMC, just a better version of AMC. And I think that he is probably one of your top hunters that not a lot of people play, that I think more people should play because of how fucking gross he is. I think like throughout all my accounts, I think I'm like fucking 35 and I don't know, like 6 or 7. I've only lost a few amount of games with Marty. A few of them being like with randoms, or just people who, you know, I'm trying to help play with. Regardless, he's still fucking really good. I think, in my opinion, he's like your top 3 to 5 hunters right now. Bacchus, don't think he'll ever move. Super solid top pick. I always think about banning him, but then I remember there are other gods up here too that I need to ban. If all these gods somehow get banned, which is almost nearly impossible, then I'll think about Bacchus. So I think he's like in a very good spot at this S spot. Terra, another god too that I think is super underrated. No one really plays her. She's a little bit harder to play at a high level. I mean, her kit is very simple, but you got to play her correctly with a team that communicates well, because she basically gets a free root with her 3-1 combo. But if not properly communicated, it can be a little bit, you know, not great. On top of the fact that she does have not a CC immune, or she doesn't have a CC immune ult. So if you go up against any gods that, you know, like Ares, for example, you're kind of cooked. So with that actually being said, I'm gonna put her in top of A+. Now that I'm saying it, because there are safer gods to play besides Terra, and she can be heavily countered. So I'll put her A+. She's still super underrated top guardian. Hunbats is still staying here. I refuse to take him out. I think he, outside of Cirquet, is the best assassin in the game. Just having pressure with his ult, the amount of gods that he can counter that are really good in the meta is crazy. Like, he can counter a lot of the hunters up here very, very easily, getting to that back line. And then a lot of, you know, top-rated mages that we haven't gone into yet. He counters them really well, especially if you have a good team. Like, if you go Hunbats and Jing Chen, you know, Jing Chen gets all the beads and stuff like that, gets their dashes or whatever, then, you know, Hunbats can blink in or 3 in. Because remember, he got buffed in his 3. His 3 fucking hits so hard, and when it bounces off people, it's absolutely absurd. That he's just too good. And you throw a relic dagger on him, and it's literally impossible. You have blink up every 60 seconds, with your ult being on like a fucking 60-second cooldown as well. So, like, every single fight, if you're up against a Hunbats, you gotta make sure you position perfectly. And even still, even if you position perfectly, he's got to blink most of the time if you're playing him correctly, and relic dagger, so it's like almost impossible. So Hunbats is, outside of Cirquet, the best assassin right now, I think, unless I'm not thinking about one. I guess we'll see, but currently up here I think he's the best assassin. Chiron, very similar to Marty, a very safe pick as well. Super good ult. I've been playing Chiron a lot recently. I don't think he's as good as Marty, at least my playstyle, because, you know, he has a little bit more room for error. Like, he has his 3, but it can be stunned. It's a little bit hard to do, but it can still be stunned out of, whereas Marty, for example, has a movement speed in his 3. And then on top of that, he does have a CC immune ult that goes into the air for like fucking 6 seconds. So, you know, although I think Chiron is still S pick, I don't think he's as good as Marty. He's still, you know, very good top of your food chain hunter. He's got CC immunity in his 1 too, so you can help out your teammate if you know that there's going to be a lot of CC on their team. So if you're a really good Chiron, it can come into a lot more play. So I'm going to keep him right there. One of the biggest things that I like to do with Chiron is if we have a very high CC team like a Jing Chen or a Kumba, for example, you know, they go in, use their CC. Late game Chiron ult fucking one-shots. And so what you can do is you can stand far away to make them seem like you're not there, or that the Guardians are there. You're like, oh, Chiron's so far away, you can't get in. Then you just, you know, ult from like fucking half the map away, use your ult, hit them at least once, and then you use your 2. So that's kind of how I've been playing Chiron. It's been working well. Yu Huang, I got to put an A. Mages, like I said, are still not that great comparatively, but I will not disregard the crazy damage safeness he has with his ult 3. Very similar to Marty, one of the safest, if not the safest mage in the game. And I do have a Yu Huang video coming out, going up against K Money, who is a very solid GM that actually won with Yu Huang. So still very good god. Chalk keeping an S. I think he's one of your top hunter or warrior, sorry. Probably top 3 warriors right now. His ability to counter hunters, his damage. I mean, you go bluestone, you know, sorry, redstone into like a Midgard and pop a Kins or something. And if you have Shoguns, it's even better. You just don't ever die. You do so much damage. You counter hunters. And yeah, you're so winging. Super safe as well if you play him correctly. And I've been liking Chalk a lot. I mean, again, don't forget that he's been getting like, he got like 15,000 buffs before, and now he's just in a spot where he's just so fucking good. X-Ball got a nerf, but I don't think the nerf really changed his spot. Yes, he's doing less damage with his 2, but with that extra slow, like I said, slows are fucking OP. An extra 10% slowness too allows him to get like 3 to 4 extra autos off. And 3 to 4 extra autos on a squishy or you know, a tank late game means you win games. So I still think he's probably a top 5 still. Let's see, we got Charybdis, Hoi, Medusa, Marty, Chiron. So I'd say he's probably like an honorable mention with his recent nerf, but still, I mean, it's still really, really fucking good. I after all the buffs that he's gotten, I still think he's S, probably low S. Odin, I think I said that he's still S. I think I don't think I ever specifically said it, but yeah, I think he's still S. He's still very good counter pick into gods that that don't have. So like he can counter the fuck out of Baron, for example. And so like in those specific cases, I still think he's a like top of the food chain warrior with a lot of counter ability. So I'm gonna put him in S still. On to A+. We still have Yu Huang, Terra, Achilles, Uller, Rajan. Amaterasu, I think, is a top 3 warrior. I think, you know, you got Amma, Shiva, and Shock, and I think that's your top 3 guardians right now. I think Amma is probably gunning for that top 1, maybe outside of Shock. And Amma just, I mean, I played a decent amount of Amma. I remember I played into a Bakasura, into another auto attack hunter, and they had like a Yorm, for example, and my god, it was insane. I think I had Hera on my team that left, and it was a 2v3, and I was keeping pace with the 2v3. I went like phalanx into like a Bakasura and a hunter, and it felt so nice. Like I didn't die, did so much damage, was clearing wave as a 2v3. Eventually we gave up, but then the very next game we went up against the exact same people, and instead of playing Amma, I went Erlong. And I know Erlong is a different character than Amma, and there are different, you know, things you gotta think about in terms of their kit, how you want to play around. But my fucking god, the difference was night and day. With Alma, I felt invincible. When I had Erlong, I was like, okay, this is all, I gotta think about more of my shit here. Whereas Alma, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just swinging. I'm just going. And I only scale better as the game goes on. So I think Alma right now is your top 3 warrior, in my opinion. She's just so good. Ever since she got that buff in her 2, she just has it all up all the time. You go like a pretty one on her, it's like her 2 is on like a 8-second cooldown or some shit. It's actually wild. So I think she's up there. Ishtar, I'm gonna keep an A+. She's kind of gunning for that S spot with the amount of buffs that she's getting though. I think she's one of your most underrated. I don't say she's top 5, but she's definitely in that honorable mention outside of your S when, you know, considering everything outside of S. I think she's probably one of the best hunters in this like A+. I mean, she's gotten 6 buffs legitimately, like unironically within the past like 5 or 6 patches, I swear to God. And so she does so much damage, and I have a video of her coming out soon. She fucking slams. She does have her weaknesses though. That's why she's an A+. You know, her 3, you know, it's not the greatest getaway ability. If someone blocks you with slows, it kind of fucks you. But she does have really good range, and that's kind of what you want with a, you know, a hunter like that as well. Neja, I'm keeping in the same category. She's still, I always get that fucked up or messed up. So he is still a very, very solid assassin, especially when you pair it with like a Scylla or a high damage old god like Ra or Vulcan. Super annoying. Whenever I see Neja, I almost always want to ban Scylla, because that's just like the best combo that Neja has right now, and it's so fucking annoying. Don't think he's ban worthy compared to all these other gods, but still think he's A+ category. And if you're gonna play Neja, I think you almost always have to go pair it up with a mage. That's kind of when you want to play Neja. I don't think he's as good anymore to the point where, like, you know, you play him every single game, you win for free. Now you have to like kind of try a lot harder. That's why he's probably an A+ for me, in my opinion. Geb, I do ban a lot. Do I want to put him in S, though? Now, I ban him a lot into specific team comps that I see. If they have a very safe team, or if they have a very backline heavy team, he's really fucking annoying to go into, and so I ban him there, especially if there are no other Guardians I need to worry about. On a general basis, though, I don't ban him. But do I think Geb is better than Terra, Neja, and Achilles? I'm going to leave him here. I think he's like borderline S, but he's not like someone that you almost, you know, like, I don't know, man. He's really fucking good. I'm gonna leave him there, and I'm gonna stop thinking about it because I'm gonna change my mind over and over again. But I could see an argument for him to go into S. I still think he's very, 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 very good, especially if you play him correctly with like blink and shit. Super good setup. Mulan, I'm gonna keep an A plus. Ever since her nerfs, I still think she's, you know, she's toned down a lot, but I still think she's very good. A lot of damage. Whenever I play her, she seems to always deliver for the most part. So I'm gonna keep her in A plus. Persephone's gonna stay in A plus too. Very safe, solid mage. But again, mages aren't, you know, terribly great right now, so I'm gonna keep her here. Vulcan, I would put near, you know, top of A plus, almost S. Very similar to Yu Huang. These two guys are probably your best mages right now. That with Rajan as well. But outside of that, you know, oh, forgot about this god. This god's really annoying, and this god. Never mind. These gods right here are still very good, but top of A in my opinion, A plus. Kukulkan I'm going to keep here as well. Kukulkan is still very good. A lot of great setup with blink, high damage, and can do a lot of things. So I'm going to keep him here as well. Nothing really changes much. Cab as well, very similar to Terra, where, you know, he has a lot of great setup, you know, against, you know, anti-root, for example, with his one. For example, you hit by Persephone while you use your one, you can just walk out. Same with Scylla one, if you have your one procced. So has a lot of great counters too, especially with his ult. You know, gods into, you know, Chiron. He has specific counters into those gods who don't have like leaps or jumps or, you know, whatever. And so, but again, similarly to Terra, doesn't have a CC immune ult, can very easily get locked down due to that semi-immobility that he has outside of, like, you know, movement speed. So he's going to stay in the A+. ESET, very similar to Baron. I think Baron's better, though. I think Baron just does more. I mean, ESET, Baron's a lot easier to use and hit abilities compared to ESET. But, you know, she's still a very top god if you play her like hybrid or like, you know, tank. Herc as well. One of the biggest things about Herc is that he can get slowed pretty easily. I think that's one of the biggest things against. You got to position well, of course, against Herc, but a lot of slows. Baron, specifically into Hercules, is very good. And, you know, other gods that, you know, proc slows as well, like Atlas, for example, very good into him. Morgan Le Fay still isn't playable. I'm gonna keep her here. I don't think she's ever gonna be playable, but I mean, I think she's A+. Don't know actually, because we don't see her a lot, but I'd consider her A+, whatever. Sun Wukong is in the same spot, I think. Yeah, I think he's an underrated god. Did I put him in A+ though? I don't know. I don't see him a lot. You know, I'm gonna bring him down to A just because I don't see him a lot. And now again, that doesn't mean that he, you know, isn't very good. He's still very good. And you know, that doesn't, him not being seen a lot doesn't mean that he's any less good or bad. But just, I guess, Sun Wukong into a lot of these other tanks, just compared to a lot of these other tanks, just isn't really doing it. He's still very good and he can still do things, but I mean, I've gone up against like maybe one or two and they weren't really that much of a problem, especially as a backline. You get CC'd high hell. The only thing is that he's super, you know, evasive, so he can get away a lot, but at the end of the day, he's not very hard to, you know, counter or win against. On her is a scary one. I don't know, man. See, on her is a very high skill ceiling, and so I want to put him in S, but like X-Ball is so much easier to play, and I think better than on her. He has really good slow though. I'm gonna put him in high A+. plus. I can almost see him being an S, so I could see an argument for that. I just think that other hunters are just so much easier and better to play than on her. And much safer. Jormungandr, I'm gonna put an S. He's actually really fucking good. Tablet stacks as well make him even better. You know, getting up to 70, does a lot of fucking damage, super safe. Has a lot of counters against the top of these, you know, gods, so he can counter Jing Chen, sort of. He counters the fuck out of Kuzenbo's CC, same with Cerberus's ult. You know, only things that really affect him are roots and stuns. Mezes, I guess. But, you know, knockups aren't a thing, you know, certain things like that. So he does counter a lot of these gods up here, so I'm gonna put him in S. Isha is gonna stay in A plus. Nothing really crazy about her right now. Still very good. You know, has a lot of CC set up and shit like that, but a lot of other mages that are still, I think, a little bit better. Discordia, I'm gonna put like in the same spot as Yu Huang and Vulcan. She's so fucking annoying, and so, you know, with her extra range on her 3, she's so slippery, and specifically with her cooldown shit, you can pop a fucking, I can't remember the item now because I just, Baubles, Sphinx's Baubles on her, and she actually fucking slams, like, Chronos, Deso, Baubles, and insert other cooldown item, Mirrodin, and, like, she just doesn't ever die. She gets away, she's so squishy, has so much CC, does so much damage, and so she's super fucking annoying. And so I put her as one of your top mages right there. Hachiman's gonna stay in here. I think he's kind of like a wannabe X-Ball, I guess. Just doesn't do as much damage. Has better range, better consistent range than X-Ball, but nothing. I'd rather go any of these gods than Hachi. Super safe though, but he just doesn't do as much damage as these gods do. AMC is also very like Walmart version of Marty. I know he got more hives and stuff, but it doesn't seem to be a factor in considering all of his shit that he does. Still super annoying, does a lot of damage, a lot of tick damage as well, but I just think that Marty is better. And so he's gonna stay there. Thor, I've been not seeing a lot, but still very fucking good, dude. I swear to God, people don't play him enough. He's gonna be an A+. I think he's one of your top assassins as well that no one really plays. I played with one the other day, and he 2-1 the backline and half hit him. He's like, he counters a lot of your top backlines, and it's kind of funny to see that he's not being played a lot. Like, if I'm playing Marty and I see a Thor, I'm like, God damn it, he's just gonna 2-1 me. And of course, as a Marty, you can still get away using your ult, but it's just so annoying thinking about that all the time. And I think Thor still very top assassin. Ganesh, I'm gonna put in your top of A, almost S again. I think Ganesh does a lot of fucking damage. You know, super safe, and a lot of his buffs, he's super tanky and helps out his team a lot. I just can't think. I can't imagine him being in a scenario where I'd rather have him than any of these top guardians. With that being said, though, he's one of the best counters, so he can counter the fuck out of Kumba. I mean, counter Serb. Jing, I mean, there's so many things that you can counter, although, you know, Ganesh's ult, he doesn't have CC immune ult against Jing, so there's certain things, but like, he counters a lot of fuck out of these top gods, and played correctly can beat a lot of these guys just because he has a lot of good counters. He's like the counter god. Nike, I'm gonna keep an A+. All those buffs didn't seem to do too much to her. She's still very good, has a lot of potential, but don't think that all those buffs really changed anything like considerably when comparing to the other warriors. Osiris, again, a very similar spot, gonna stay in the A+ area, almost borderline S sometimes, so I'll put him up a little bit, but you know, he can get countered by a lot of gods as well, and there's a lot of other easier consistent, you know, warriors like Chalk and Shiva that kind of do his job better, easier. Gilgamesh, same spot as well. Super fucking good. I think he's a little underrated. He's been getting a lot of buffs and buffs and buffs, like his 1, for example. And his ult, I believe now, is on a small or a shorter cooldown, I think. That, or it does more damage. I think it does more damage as well. I can't remember exactly the buffs, but I know he's a very, very good, underrated, honorable mention warrior that you should not overlook. He's still very fucking good. Scylla, I think, is, if not one of the best the best current mage. I mean, it's her combo with where is it at? Neja. I don't know where the fuck he's at. There he is. Obviously one of the best combos in the game currently in Joust. If you ever get that combo, you know, that's really fucking good. I've had that combo and it's really nice, and I've gone up against that combo. It's not very nice. So even into a regular team, her 1-2 is just so fucking good. Especially if you go into a squishy type of team. I still think, you know, really fucking good. Scylla has been one of those gods this split that I actually have been like not struggling against, but whenever I go up against a Scylla recently, I've been like, fuck, dude. Okay, she just I can't get to her as a tank, and then as a damage dealer, I have to always be super vigilant on where the fuck this bitch is at, because you know, she 1-2s you and you're fucking dead if you don't Aegis in time or beads in time. So I think she's probably one of the best mages right now. That might just be a bias for me. She could very well be see an argument for A+, but I think she's one of the best mages right now. Probably borderline between A+ and S. One of the biggest things that counters Scylla, if you ever really want to, is a very high CC team. Just to get her beads, get her dash, get her ult and everything, because again, she can beads, 3 away, and ult away. One of the biggest things that I had struggled with when I played against her recently is, you know, I had a Jing on my team, would get all the beads, get the dash, and then he'd get even ult. And everything would be down, but we didn't have a god that can capitalize off that. And so we were thinking, you know, for example, we bring in Assassin. Think of like a Hunbats or a fucking Thor. Imagine if we got all of that, the beads, the ult, the 3, and then, you know, Jing Chen walks out, and then Hunbats comes in, ults, and kills her for free. So I think a really good Assassin dive type, you know, even like another Guardian or tank that has a lot of CC that get those beads, ult, and her 3 away can really counter that type of playstyle. Specifically as well with like Marty, gods that are very safe that can stay in the back line and do a lot of damage. You can counter like that. Enough said. Going on to Athena, I think Athena's probably... Nah, I probably put her in A. I don't think she's doing as good. I haven't seen her in a while. She does what she does. Very similar. Always consistent style. In double tank, not that great. Into double squishy, very good. But we're not in a squishy meta, so I think she's probably running that A. Nuwall is another god who I think is surprisingly good. There's a reason why she's up here. Nothing much changes with her. Her clay minions do so much fucking damage. If you leave them alone and you're a squishy, they can do half your fucking health. So super annoying, super safe with her ult for the most part. Has a lot of counters, which is why she's probably still in this A+ category down here. But still a very, very good mage. Rama, I'm going to keep in here as well. Probably one of your honorable mention hunters you think about. Can counter a lot of your gods. He's very good into CC if you play correctly. Using your dash and then ulting, CC immune ulting, and then going up and then just chilling there for a little while hitting the back line. Gives you enough time to have your 3 back up. You can 3 away, or gives you enough time for your team to come help you get their cooldowns back up. And super hard to go up against. And not only that, does a lot of fucking damage. So I think he's an underrated honorable mention type of hunter in A+. Already talked about some Wukong, Athena. Lancelot, I think, is A+. With a lot of the other gods, I've been seeing him a decent amount. With a lot of the other gods that don't really counter him, such as Jing Chen, Kuzenbo, specifically in his horse, he can go very tanky and kill the backline pretty easily. You can counter a lot of these top-end Guardians because a lot of their CC is either knock up or slow or anything. And remember, I believe his 3 is only stun, and he's root immune. I think it's only stun and maybe a mez. I can't remember exactly what it's immune to, but it's immune to basically all of the good CCs. So I think he's A+, and he gets good counters into these comps, in my opinion. Ravana, I'm going to keep in A. I don't think he's a fine god into a lot of these gods up here. He's got a CC immune ult, so that's nice as well. But outside of that, I mean, I'd rather go any other assassin up here, in my opinion. Danza, very similar. Now, we get down to these parts, they're kind of not really changing all that much. But Danza, not the greatest, not the worst, very solid, okay. Very comp dependent with his abilities and shit. And so I still think he's an A. Maui, another god who I think is just okay. He's much better in Conquest, in my opinion. He's kind of like that true support who does decent damage in like his ult and has consistent setup with his 3 and his 1, but they're kind of hard to land outside of maybe his ult. So you have to play him specifically because he just doesn't do the amount of damage that these gods do consistently. Artemis, I'm gonna put an A plus, bottom A plus. She kind of shifts between A plus and A. I think she still does a lot of fucking damage. Still relatively safe with her 2, giving her movement speed and CC immune ult with her ult. CC immune ult with her ult, whatever. So I think she's generally safer than you may think, and so I think she's probably, you know, low A plus, in my opinion. Can you know, see an argument for just A. Baba Yaga, I'll bring back up to A plus. She recently got a small buff. I think she was kind of teetering between A and A plus anyways. I think she's a very solid mage, not the best. I'm pretty sure I'd go these mages up here rather than, or before I go Baba Yaga, but I mean, she's still a very solid mage, and I'll leave it at that. Horus, I'm gonna keep here. He's countered by so many. I don't think he really does anything at this point. Can get destroyed. He's relatively safe, but not compared to these guys. Ardia got a recent buff, which I think actually puts her at A plus. She got a lot more damage, I believe, in her 3 towards the end of it, and then she got a buff in her 2, and I think that pushes her up to A plus because I think she was a very solid guardian to begin with, very damage spammy type god, similar to King Arthur, and I always thought she was relatively good. But, you know, they nerfed her, brought her down, and then they buffed her. Now I think she's back at A+. Set I'm going to bring back at A+. I think he's always another guy that's teetering between A and A+. He's not really good in the double tank, but I've been seeing him, you know, do some work against the backline as well. That's kind of how you really want to play him. Just kill the backline. And so I think he's still a very... He's a solid assassin that I've been seeing a lot more that I think is very good in the specific team comps. Thoth, man, I don't know. I don't think Thoth is all that great. I think he's still an A. I can see an argument for low A plus, but I just think that every other god here, like, imagine going Thoth into a Hunbats. That's never fun. Chiron, Marty. I mean, if you go up against these gods up here, you're just dying. I think Thoth is just too. He's a very high skill ceiling god too, because his abilities are pretty narrow. On top of, you know, not only is his abilities very narrow, but you have to think about a lot of the things that he does with his 2. He's Savior 2. He can be run down by slows as well. So, yeah, I don't think he does the amount of damage like he used to put him up any higher. Because, again, I remember he was top of the food chain, and that was just because his damage and shit was, you know, out of the park at that point. Again, I can see an A+. But I think with all like the other things being, all the other gods and items being better, I don't think Thoth is all that great. Erlang I'm going to keep here as well. I think he's a solid AA warrior into specific team comps, but there are a lot of other gods here that I'd rather see than before Erlang. Cupid, fuck, I want to put Cupid up more. And I think I will. I'm going to put him in A+. I think he has some really good matchups with his ult and his slow and his 1. Somewhat safe with his 3, but if you're caught out as Cupid, you're kind of fucking dead. So I can honestly see an argument for just A, but I've been playing a decent amount of Cupid and he's been feeling pretty good. Bastet staying here. Bastet is good in certain team comps, but outside of that, nothing crazy about her. She can just get, you know, chased down. She's relatively safe, but into any of these guys up here, you're not gonna have a fun time for the most part. Zhang Kui, I think, is probably still middle of the road. Not really seeing him much, but can do things with different type of builds, you know, like AA builds, although I wouldn't recommend that, or full damage, which is fine, or even hybrid type builds, which I pretty much prefer for the most part. But he's just to stay in A. Camazotz I've been seeing a lot more, and I've been seeing a lot more success with him. He's recently had buffs in his 1 and his 2, giving him more lifesteal, and I think that kind of pushes him up more. He's got a little bit of a nerf in Joust specifically, but I think the damage he does to tanks, specifically to the backline, if you go full damage, which you can go with Camazotz, I think he's a lot better. I think he's one of your better assassins, A+, in my opinion. I haven't played him recently, but I can feel he's really good. Agni is another guy I think kind of goes back up to A+, but they never really change all too much. They kind of teeter between A and A+, which is why I added it here. But for the time being, I've been seeing Agni a little bit more, and it's annoying. Again, you know, we went up against an Agni with a Thor, which kind of the fuck out of Agni. Who would have thought? And so, you know, 2-1ing, half hitting him, and it, you know, It's not fun as an Agni. But regardless, he still does a lot of damage, super annoying. I'm going up against a decent amount of Agnis to split, and I will say still annoying, so I will bring him up at A+. But Mage's still not feeling that great. Kugu, I'm gonna, oops, almost forgot Charon. Charon, it kind of feels bad to put him in A at this point, but I don't see him a lot. Doesn't mean he's bad, but I'll put him in A+, because I still think they're like, generally speaking, every single Guardian in Joust is playable or, you know, somewhat good outside of a couple. I think Charon is still a very good A+ god. Sobek has recently got a buff. I think he's high A. I think he, you know, with his slow, like I said, slows are very fucking good. His increase in slow, I think he puts him at your top A+ on borderline S in my opinion. You could see an argument. Still think he has his downfalls with his one missing. If you miss your one, I mean. But that extra slow in his ult is absolutely huge. And so I'll put Sobek from like A to top of A+. Cuckoo, I'm gonna leave here. Nothing crazy about him. He still not. He's somewhat safe, but there's better mages to go right now. He's gotten buffs recently, but I don't think it's mattered too much. Tiamat going right into A+. I'm not really putting it in to certain categories, like specifically within the category. At what point, you know, they're better or not. But if I were to put him somewhere, I'd probably put him in like middle of the road A+. I think he is very good, or she is very good, especially with the tablet buffs. And surprisingly, I didn't think the tablet stacks would be able to get stacked, you know, as the game goes on. I still think is generally true. But on gods like Tiamat that can spam, you can actually get up to like 70 stacks within like 15 minutes into the game. And I've done it. And I have a video coming out soon about it too. So you can actually get those stacks fairly easy between the 15 and 20 minute mark. And so I was actually kind of wrong about the tablet stacks here. So I think she's a very good top mage in my opinion. All right, Bologna, I'm going to keep here as well. Again, the thing about AA Warriors is once they get late game, they do so much fucking damage and shit like that, but you got to get there. And I think that very similar to Erlang, you're still going to be in like that A area. Not the greatest, but you know, once you get late game, can do things. Merlin, I'm going to keep an A as well. One of your best gods late game. With tablet stacks, a lot better. I kind of want to put him in A+, but I don't think it's fair to put Merlin and Tiamat in the same spot when I think Tiamat is just a better Merlin. Up until late game, where I think that Merlin... not even late game. I think Tiamat outdamages Merlin late game too. Or they're very similar neck to neck, I feel like. Could be wrong, but I haven't played Merlin. Or seen Merlin. So I could see an argument to put him in A+, but I just don't think he's there. Neath is going to stay in the same spot. Very middle of the road. Hunter have gone up against many Neaths. They're just not... They're kind of mid. You can do things. They're still mid, though. Same with Guan. Guan's the middle of the road warrior. Can do things. A lot of your top gods counter the fuck out of him, though. And so... I think he's just middle of the road warrior. Cernernos, another middle of the road hunter. Don't think you can do too much with him either. Doesn't have a CC immune ult. Can get caught out really easily. His dash isn't the greatest, and there's a lot of other better hunters. And the same thing with Nut. Unless you're going for a specific team with Nut, I don't think she's all that great. Her burst with her one is super nice though, if you can ever get that off. But again, a lot of other better hunters here. Arachne, surprisingly, I think is A. I don't really like her too much, but in the specific team comps and if played correctly, I think she's a character. I think she can actually do a decent amount of things. I think I've been probably underrating her a little bit. I played with a lot of Arachnes, and you know, I gotta say she's super annoying, so I put her in A. And very similar to Bakasura as well. Whenever I see Bakasura now, I don't actually hate it too much. Of course, in the specific team comps, and if you play Bakasura correctly. But you know, being an ult bot and playing Bakasura, I've been seeing a lot of Bakasuras and Arachnes, and I haven't been minding it too much. It's a little bit troll sometimes, especially depending on the pilot who's behind it. So it's very easy to troll on. So I can definitely see or make an argument for Bakasura and Arachne to go back down to B just because of that troll aspect. But higher up, I've been seeing a decent amount of Bakasuras and Arachnes, and I've been winning with them. So I kind of feel like I got to put them in A, and that's where I'll put them. Here got recent buffs. I think that probably pushes them up to A. I think Tyr may be one of a pretty underrated warrior, specifically into certain comps. But outside of that, I still think there are other better warriors than him. Sylvanas, bro. I have been underrating Sylvanas so much. I think he's an A+ pick. Legitimately, if you play a decent Sylvanas hitting your roots and your threes consistently, I mean, he's kind of fucking a menace. He's a fucking menace, dude. The obvious downfalls with him is that he doesn't have a lot of mobility. So if you do trap him, you kind of just die. But man, I mean, his CC and shit, his damage is not to be messed with. I've died by a few Sylvanases thinking that, you know, they never kill me here, and I ended up dying to his 2 and his ult, and it's pretty funny because I think he's actually really good. A+ Guardian in my opinion. All right, where are we at? King Arthur. He got recent buffs, so I'll put him in A. I haven't seen him in action, but I mean, he got bumped down from A to B because of his nerfs, and now he's got some pretty decent buffs. Like his 1 and 2 got nerfed, or is it 2? Is it his 2 that got buffed? You know, getting rid of 2 seconds off a cooldown, which is nutty if you're a King Arthur because you're spamming out abilities. So I put him in A. Freya is gonna stay down in B. I think she's a solid AA mage once you get there, but all the recent nerfs that she's gotten, I don't think really puts her in that spot anymore, like the A+ spot. So I think she's still in B. Similar to Oleron, Sol, and actually Kronos, I don't think these gods are very good. I think they can be placed into certain niche comps, and you can do work. But you know, Oleron, for example, you got your ult, very super solid pressure type of ult. And late game smash, there's all these gods late game smash, but like it's really the early game pressure that these other gods bring that are just way better than them, and generally speaking, you're almost always going to win against these gods. Sol, I think, is probably better than all of them in this spot. I think can be played as a mage, which I think is better than an AA mage. I guess same with Kronos as well, but you know, these gods just don't really do the things well. I've gone up against many Kronoses, many Sols. I haven't gone against a lot of Oleron or Freya, but I've got to imagine it's the same exact. I've gone up against a few Freyas. They're just not it. They just get destroyed. And they're not like shitty you know, Kronos or Sol, but like, because I'm like, I mean, they're like Masters players, like 2700 MMR, and they just get absolutely destroyed by these meta gods. Surtur, very similar, super safe god, but just doesn't get anything done in my opinion. He's got a very good setup with his 2, and he's super fucking tanky. You kind of want to go anti-heal against him because it was, you know, all of his healing and shit, and you can go Soul Eater, for example, if you really wanted to with him. He's got quirky builds that work with him, but you know, generally speaking, he just kind of gets destroyed. He kind of just gets destroyed, ults away, and then you lose all that pressure and lose tower, and eventually just lose. He just doesn't do what all these. He's tanky, can live and do a decent amount of damage, but all these other guys do his job better. Same with Scotty. Every other fucking hunter I feel like is better than her for the most part. Outside of like your bronze, silver, gold, and maybe plat where she gets played, she just gets farmed. Again, Chang'e. I love playing Chang'e, but not very good outside of double squishy backline. You can carry games with that, as I have before, I think last season, where, you know, you can ult 3-1 and kill them for free, one-shot them. But you can't really do that against tanks, because she sucks against tanks, and she just gets obliterated by tanks. So I'm going to keep her in B. Aphrodite, I think, is really fucking good. Ever since they buffed her 3 and everything, and with her ult, I think that really kind of makes her consistently so much easier to play and better to play, and saves people a lot more. And a high rated Aphrodite like GM, Masters Hide, Masters GM, Aphrodite, oh my god, it's so annoying to play up against. I played into a couple of them, and it's never fun because you can get as much anti-heal in the world, but if they back up and they just heal, like 2 rotations of the heal, you kind of just nullifies everything that you've just done to them. And it also allows them to have more pressure on Bull Demon, for example, because you could kill people. Like, there's so many things where, like, you get a pick, for example, and you're like, oh, I could go to Bull Demon here. And it's like, oh, but my 2 tanks are really fucking low. Not if you have an Aphrodite who can just kiss them, 3 them up, heal them up, and just tank the Titan or tank the Bull Demon for free while getting more health. And so Aphrodite has always been a sleeper pick, in my opinion. But now she's like super fucking good, and I don't like putting her because she's so fucking annoying. I hate going up against her. I hate her. I have a bias, but she's a very good pick. Vamana I've been seeing not that much, but a couple of times, and he kind of gets farmed too. Like the ult is fine. Like you can get some pressure off the ult, but Sunder exists, so and there's a lot of anti-shield items, so he's still staying in B in my opinion. Hera I think is a little bit better. I think she's in that A spot. I've been seeing a lot more Heras, and she's actually been doing work. You just gotta hit your abilities, but if you hit your abilities, I mean, she kind of does work. So I'll put her in A. Now Kwong still staying in here. Nothing. He doesn't do much. I mean, he kind of just dies. Doesn't do a lot of damage, especially higher up. I think once you get like your bronze, silver, gold, plat, maybe low diamond, he's probably like an A pick. But like, no, he's not doing much. Same with Chernobog. Just doesn't play well in Joust. Does damage. All the hunters do it better though. Kali, I think, is an underrated pick. I think she's probably around that A. Late game Kali is a menace, and don't underestimate her blink 3/2 combo. You can fuck somebody up if you go full damage. Fenrir staying in B outside of a couple counters that he has that aren't even that great anymore. I don't think he does much of anything. Heimdall, similar spot, you know, does decent damage, but super hard to play consistently. Yanis, I think he got a buff actually, but nothing crazy. A lot of other consistent, easy to hit, better mages. Jingwei has like late game potential, but you got to get there with her passive and stuff, but she just gets shut down too early in my opinion. Tank Mercury is okay. Full damage Mercury is kind of not great, but I mean, you can kind of do things with Mark at some points, but not really. There's so much CC in all these other gods that he gonna get shuts down. Very similar to Nemesis as well. She can get to the back line, then she's good, but you're not going to most likely. Poseidon I've been seeing a decent amount of. Still think he's just like a Walmart version of every other god who has a better high damage ult, because it's not as safe as like Scylla ult, for example. And on top of that, you use your 3, it's a cripple, but I mean, I've been seeing a lot more what's the word, not Relic Dagger, Wing Blade, and that kind of just nullifies Poseidon's 3 for the most part. Ra, easy lockdown, better, safer mages with the high CC ult. Rat, not great like at all. Kind of get CC super safe though if you can get to the backline, I guess, but you're not really gonna get there. I don't feel. It doesn't have a lot of pressure or damage. Kind of very simple, or you're kind of you kind of know what he's gonna do. Same thing with Tsukiyomi. He's not that great. He can kind of get locked down. Ymir, however, I'll put up to A. I've been seeing some pretty decent Ymirs recently, and kind of makes me think he's a little underrated. I always thought he was a little underrated. I just needed to be shown that. I've been going up against a decent amount of Ymirs, and still has that same issue of getting locked down because he's like, you know, immobile as fuck. But you know, he doesn't have a lot of. He has a CC immune ult, which, you know, counters a lot of the. And I think that's one of the biggest things that pushes him out there is that, you know, it seems like you can just kill him for free. But if he has his ult up, he just ults down, and you know, you're pretty much good to go. I have a hair on my face. I feel it. There it is. Okay. No, I still see it. I have another one. Fuck. But anyways, yeah, I think Ymir is actually a pretty solid pick right now. Hebo. I don't think he's great. Pretty easy, squishy mage that just gets shut down. Loki, very similar. He's a very niche pick in my opinion. A little bit better than a lot of these other gods, but nah. Bakke Kujira is probably one of the worst guardians right now. He just does no damage to your front lines in my opinion. And it's just, I don't think he's a great design either for Joust. Hell's got some play with her 2 and her heal form, but she gets locked down. So easy to see what she's doing as well. Alpwash, they buffed him, nerfed him, and so I think he's probably still in the same spot. He gets locked down in Joust specifically. He's not that great. Zeus is just shit. Does a lot of damage, but so easy to lock down. Susano, not that great either. Does not a lot of damage. He has a decent amount of setup, so if you play a good Susano, I could see it, but even still, not really great. Daji has some niche play, counter plays that I think is semi-good. Same with Awilix, but outside of that, you got to play those gods into only specific counter picks. Cleo's always just gonna be bad in Joust. I mean, the walls are cool and all, and she's got a recent buff, but she just doesn't do that damage. Well, I mean, she does damage. She just doesn't have that pressure that other assassins do. And that's just because, you know, she doesn't have a CC immune ult. She can get locked down pretty easily. And that's the biggest thing. Izanami, probably one of your worst hunters. Not great. She's gonna be C still. All right, on to Nox. Outside of a certain couple of team comps, bad. Pele, bad. Doesn't do. She does damage, but she's a suicide type of god. And when you're into a team comp that has a lot of CC, you're gonna suicide and not get a kill. Thanatos, super bad as well. He's got some playability, you know, as like a hybrid type god, but nothing like that. The Morrigan definitely can be good in certain situations, but you have to play her at a high level, on top of the fact that the Morrigan's pretty hard to play to begin with. So unless you're a really good Morrigan player, you're not really going to be playing her that much. Hades sucks. Anubis sucks in Joust. I know Anubis has been really good in Conquest. I just don't think he just gets locked down. He's too in place with all of his abilities, with his 1 and his ult, and doesn't have any type of escape. Apollo sucks as well. Doesn't have any type of pressure on the map outside of maybe like an ult. Kefri's probably one of the worst. Guardians too. Can have some playability, you know, if you're going for a specific team comp, but generally speaking, does no damage and has pretty mid CC. Yamoja has the worst win rate in the game. Got to play her at a high level, and even at a high level, I don't think she does enough damage to do that. And then Mama Brigitte is probably, I think, the worst god in Joust. Has the worst win rate as well. Yeah, does no damage. Or she does, sorry, doesn't do no damage. Think of Yamoja. She does damage. She just got to get. She has to get there, and she's never gonna get there. She's just gonna get CC to high hell and then die. And that is it. That is your tier list for 11.10. So your biggest ones up here, changes that I, you know, mistakenly got was, you know, like Kumba, where was it? Odin got, you know, released from that. But this is in order from Serket to Jingchen. And actually, I'll just pull up the old one because I know a lot of people skip to it, and then I'll talk about it from there. All right, so I hope you can see this. This is from 11.9. This is for 11.10. Again, not a lot of changes, but slowly but surely, when we think about all the past bans and shit like that, you compare it from like the beginning of the season to this, and you'll see a lot. It's a slow burn, especially when not a lot of focus has been on Smite 1. But, you know, a lot of specific, so not a lot of changes up here, actually, now I think about it. Again, this is in order, though, the SS bans. Everything else is not in order. This is the order that I would ban it in. So I would go Serket, Fafnir, Cthulhu, Serb, Kuzumbo, then Jingchen. I think those are your pretty consistent bans that you see all the time. I don't think, you know, for example, Kumba is not up there, Charybdis is not up there, and Odin's not up there. I was a little hesitant or overzealous on Odin. He's still a very good god, obviously he's an S right here, but just hasn't been as big of a demon as I thought he was going to be. Let me see, can I zoom in a little bit more? No, I can't. So yeah, and then, you know, Kumbhakarna had a lot of nerfs, specific nerf and bonus balance, I believe, and so he's just not as great either. I don't ban him much anymore. You know, I'll ban him in the later parts of it, and that's kind of where your S is at. These are like your later bans, in my opinion, that you can always think about. A lot of these bans haven't really changed much either. You know, certain gods like Sobek, Amma up here is there's a recent change. You know, a lot of other gods, like Rajan went down a little bit. Achilles actually went down. I don't think he's S anymore. Sobek went up a little bit. Ganesh a little bit, if you think about it. I think he's a better A+. You know, Baba, Artio, Set, Aphrodite went up a lot. Sylvanas actually went up a lot. I think Sylvanas is a lot better. Terra went down a little bit, in my opinion. Disco, a tiny bit up in the A+. I think, you know, these three gods right here outside of Scylla, which I forgot about. Scylla is, I think, one of your best mages right now, in my opinion. And then you got your three others like Disco, Vulcan, Yu Huang. Camazotz went up a little bit, you know. Between A and A+, you can always kind of make that little bit of an argument that they could be in either or. But a lot of A picks here, you'll see, kind of went up. A decent amount of A's went down, A+ went down. And then once you get to like B, C, D tier, they kind of don't change at all. But, you know, gods like Bakasura and Arachne actually went up one, as well as Kali. I think Kali and them, I think they're a little bit underrated. And I always thought so, just, you know, had to be shown. And every time I've been playing with an Arachne or a Bakasura, and they're significant, there's a decent amount. you know, I've been actually feeling them as long as they get played correctly. So at a high level, they're like an A, but again, they are pretty troll picks later, or like at the lower tiers, in my opinion. Just gotta play it correctly. But yeah, that's it. 11.9 right here, 11.10 right here if you skip to the end. And yeah, let's go back to the original tier list. All right. One last time, this is the 11.10 tier list if you'd like to take a screenshot. This is, again, in my opinion, obviously you can disagree. It's a tier list, whatever. And that's basically it. We'll see what happens for 11.11. Hopefully they do some more things, but again, I don't really see too much changing because of you know, all like the specific layoffs with Smite and high res. But I'm hopeful specifically for Smite 2's future as well. So always got to keep the hope, or whatever that you like to be praying. I don't know, fuck it. But you know, I'm hopeful. 11.11 up next whenever it comes out, and hopefully there's some significant changes. And again, Smite 2, I hope Smite 2 prospers and we slowly transition into Smite 2 with all these gods, and you know, Joust being added, ranked Joust and stuff like that. So we'll just have to see. But again, this is everything that I have for you, is a tier list right here. If you you know, disagree, want to roast me, you know, talk about something, you know, let me know in the comment section down below. If you do like my content, like, comment, and subscribe. My Discord is in the description down below if you'd like to join a wholesome community, pretty cool community. Join that down below. If you also want to you know, get in contact with me, it's a lot easier to do that in Discord. Memberships are open for $2.99 a month if you so desire. Obviously not needed. You simply watching my videos is good enough for me. And on top of that, our tournament is coming up soon. We still need some people in the tournament. The tournament is going to go live. I gotta remember, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on November 8th. It'll be at the beginning of the video, and the tournament link will be in the description down below as well. But yeah, I think that's everything that I have for you. On to 11.11 when that comes out. We'll do another tier list as well. And yeah, I think that's everything that I have for you. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching.